Thanks everyone for joining. This is kind of an ad hoc, kind of small thing. Partly, we're talking about a little bit earlier about, uh, kind of like the reach and the spread and how, kind of getting this out there kind of last minute. That was both accidental and intentional. I didn't want to like spread it too far while I was still kind of figuring out the quirks, obviously still figuring out the quirks. And also, I'm bad at planning sometimes. So I appreciate everybody for joining. If you don't know, this is kind of just an identity Active Directory Q&A. So the idea is if you want to chat, just raise your hand and we can bump you up to speaker. In fact, I'm gonna move Griffin down to the audience again, but you just raise your hand and we can bump you up to speaker and you ask a question, or you can put it in chat, and we'll talk about it. So, but in any case, if there's not a lot of questions and stuff like that, that's fine too, because I pulled all of the questions from the previous Active Directory meetups that we've done, and we can go through those, or we can just kind of have an open talk. It's kind of whatever, and we'll just go for a bit. So sorry for a tiny late start. I am still new to this presenting thing, but we'll get there. One of these days I'll be okay at it, I suppose. So anyway, some quick introductions. If you didn't know, I'm Tyler, go by Pullman Jim. I moderate the AD subreddit. I help moderate Horizon Secured. I also moderate Zero to Sec. So those kind of the three communities I participate in the most. Been doing the AD moderation since 2019, I think is when I looked. But I've been doing AD since pretty much since my entire career. So I've been doing identity-based stuff almost the entire time, except for like my days on help desk and stuff. But yeah, I work for a large healthcare company, and I'm very pro defense, even the shirts. The other thing I want to say real quick is thank you all for coming, and of course we also have another like the big community meetups that we do about once. We're going to do every other month for the AD community at large. That event's out September 1st, so same time, and hopefully it'll be a little bit smoother getting off the ground. So and my other presenter today is David. David, tell us about yourself, please.
Hello. So I work with AD. I have been working with it for like, I don't know, 8 to 9 years, something like that. And for last 6 years, I'm in Cybersec. I work as a consultant, so I mostly do security assessments, and usually later I implement tiering models, security baselines, and those more complicated things that people usually, or just typical admins, are usually not like so brave to, let's say, implement it in bigger environments. So that's what I help them with. And I'm also founder of Horizon Secured, which is basically this Discord channel is Horizon Secured. And I try to provide other admins and other IT experts with the same knowledge I had to, let's say, collect from all over the places in form of articles, posts, courses, tools, and of course with this community, for example. So trying to get some AD awareness and trying to kind of roll with the AD is dead kind of topic, which we can see a lot. But I think lately it's getting much better, which we kind of discussed last time with Tyler also. So it looks like AD is on the rise again. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually kind of like a good segue, because let's see, a friend of mine just posted something like literally minutes ago. Let me pull it up. That they've been dropping training left and right. And actually that kind of leads into kind of the Q&A thing. One of the questions I get a lot is, how do I get started? How do I learn? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's such a big topic, because it's like, there's all kinds of training resources out there. I mean, David, you've been working on stuff for a while. We've all heard of Udemy. We've all heard of Pluralsight. CPT Nuggets was a thing back when I started. I don't know if they are still a thing. I haven't heard from them in a while. There's Transcend. There was all kinds of these training companies, and all of them had different content. All of them had different quality of stuff. And you've got like the Microsoft sponsored training. It's just like, what's good and what's not good. And that's always a hard thing. what I always advise, get something, anything, and just start learning it. And if you can, get a lab. We can talk about doing labs and stuff. There's a lot of tools out there, a lot of this and that's out there. So if you're trying to kind of get learning, the AD community on the subreddit, we have a bunch of links there, and I think I've posted those links in the resources here at Horizon Secure too, if you ever want to look at them. But I can repost that in a second. But I did want to post this. So Microsoft has just been going crazy over the last few weeks. They have dropped module after module after module after module of AD content. And the thing that blows my mind about it is it's not just like, here's how you create a user account. It's like some of it's actually detailed in-depth stuff, which is pretty exciting. If you ever look at like the Microsoft training stuff, they rarely have stuff that's labeled advanced, and they have put out tons of what they consider at least advanced content. I think some of it is maybe what I would consider intermediate, but some of it is truly advanced. So that's really exciting. So if you're looking to learn some stuff about AD, I highly recommend that. And I'll also put some of the wiki links out there too, if anybody's interested in those things. So, but yeah, there's been a lot of good stuff happening, which is kind of funny because Microsoft also released a thing recently saying how you need to get off on-prem AD and go to Entra because it's better. And like, there's just really kind of two worlds fighting each other right now. It's kind of hilarious. But that's enough from me as a talking head. Does anybody have any questions? That's really what this is about, for you guys to throw some questions out there, ask them. If not, don't worry, I got stuff I can go and pull up and talk about. But if you have a question, drop in chat or raise your hand and we'll bring to stage and ask it. Should get like a soundboard at some point, play music. I'm not music inclined, so I won't sing for you guys, don't worry.
I can see Radim is typing something.
Yeah.
We worked with Radim, actually, so I know him from Prague, so we know each other.
And while he's get that in there, the next link is just the Reddit Active Directory resources links. I'm actually planning another update to that soon, but they keep dropping stuff so fast. It's like, when do I make the update? Because I don't want to miss stuff. There's even kind of beginners. Yeah, it's a massive list. Like,
amazing.
It's taking me years, and I am almost through actually like having reviewed every single like product that we list on there. Like if we say it's like download it and try it, I've almost done every single one of them. I've not read every single link though, unfortunately, because there's just a lot of those. But
yeah, it takes a lot of time, to be honest. Like the newsletter every Sunday for me, it's literally the same. Like I have like tons of things through the week that I collect, of course, and it's just impossible to stay 100% like, you know, with everything.
Yeah. All right. I will, and it's not to rush anybody. If you are asking a question, go for it. But to kind of break down some of the dead air, I'm going to kind of look at stuff. Oh, I see an invite to speak. All right, let's do it. All right, you're up. Your mic's showing is muted still. Do I need to unmute that, or is it on you? All right.
Sorry, my bad.
You're good.
All right, hi again. All right, so my question is around baseline application. So I'm in the process now of implementing CIS 18 in my environment. How would you recommend applying the baselines that affect domain controllers?
That's a good question. So there are a few ways to approach that. The thing I will always say, and this is kind of like where some of my like super offensive security friends get mad at me, is slow is okay. Vulnerabilities are bad. Like, let's just say it. Like, vulnerabilities are bad, but if you create outages trying to remediate vulnerabilities, it's no better. So we have to make sure we're cautious. So what I always recommend is go through the list and just go like item by item. And there can be a lot of items. Don't trust me. I'm trivializing it some, but there's a lot. Go item by item and if you know what the risk is off the top of your head, categorize it, like how risky it is for your environment. Not necessarily what their risk is, but like how much impact is this going to produce in my environment, as far as like how much downtime could it create, what kind of research do I need to do before I can implement it. Go item by item and list off kind of what that impact looks like to you, if you can do it off the top of your head. If you don't, skip it, go to the next one. Just do that, go down the list. Anything you skip, then go and do some like quick research on. You can usually Google those settings, or ask AI, I imagine nowadays, and you can find kind of like information from Microsoft about the impact. And then once you kind of created that impact list, anything that's low impact, go ahead and start getting that rolled out. Get the change controls in place and roll those out, and try to get those like little meaningful security gains as soon as possible, and then start working up the chain to like the ones that are a little bit more risky into your severe ones. Eventually, you will get to a point where the only ones left are going to be like your NTL V1s, your LDAP signing, your SMB1. God forbid if people are still using SMB1 because it needs to go, but it happens. SMB1, like the things that basically are big, they're going to be big hits, but they also have a lot of impact. And that way you kind of create like a working order for yourself. I will also say that CIS benchmarks, the challenge I've had with them is their documentation is kind of like all over. It's a little cluttered. I recommend starting with the Microsoft security baselines, as it will cover some of the CIS, but then roll into, and then that way you're kind of like to a point, and then you can go to the CIS next. So does that give you a path, give or take?
Yeah, that does. Thanks.
And
Yeah, no problem.
I might have another question for you, Dwayne. Is it do I pronounce it correctly? Is it Dwayne, or because I know you said your name in the connect section?
Yeah, Dwayne.
Oh, right. I see. Sorry. Do you already have baselines implemented for other devices as well, like for Windows servers and Windows desktops, or you are starting with domain controllers?
No, well, I'm not starting with domain controllers, but I'm now starting to apply those baselines. So I'll be starting with the workstations first.
Okay, so because usually what I do, and as a consultant I have done this like dozens of times, we usually start with everything else than domain controllers, because with domain controllers the thing is that when you disable anything, you basically cut off the whole environment. So it's much easier to go device by device, let's say Windows Server and Windows desktops, and then as the last thing to do it for domain controllers. Although of course it's a little bit weird because domain controller is your tier 0, so you would like to have it of course first. But if we are talking downtimes and outages, it's much easier to kind of do it later, because you already know that your devices support AES, SMB v2 or v3, because you already applied baselines to them, so it would already stop working before. So we usually do it as the last point in this. And there is also a specific preparations which we do, and we usually use policy analyzer a lot to check the effective state which is there now with the baseline we actually want to implement, because there is 500 items right now in CIS baseline, and I guess if you have like 2025 or maybe even 2022 Windows servers, maybe like 200 or 300 could potentially be the default state, which is probably already effective. So you kind of get to much smaller number of things you need to check, as Tyler said. So it will get much easier for you in the time. So I recommend doing something like that.
There are settings
Okay,
in
so
the
do
baselines.
a current state audit and then compare that with the recommendations.
Yeah.
All right, makes sense.
Yeah. And there are settings in there that apply to DCs that don't have as much downstream impacts. Like some of them are kind of like OS local. And so you can kind of attack both. If, like I said, if anything looks like it's risky, just put it off. Like, I mean, seriously, I'm not saying like indefinitely, but like just put it to the side and come back to it. And another thing to look into is if you're like trying to get off the ground on it, you could try running something like Purple Knight or Ping Castle or something like that to get kind of like a security snapshot. And that kind of gives you like known errors that you've got, known misconfigurations. a lot of those speak back into security baselines and benchmarks. So there's
Yes,
there's
I
several ways to
actually did a pin castle scan last week, so I'm using that report as well.
Yep. So it's a
Okay.
wonderful place to start. Yep.
Yeah, I think by the end of this year, I actually have a course in my mind for specifically this scenario. It should cover like migration inside of the tiering model and into security baselines. So it should show how I would proceed with those production environments, and it will be free course. So, but I think it will be done maybe by the end of January, something like that. So it will not be like next month. So it will take some time.
All right, no problem. Thanks.
I also shared the tool in the chat, so it's typical policy analyzer. It's nothing new about it, but I just love it because it's so simple to use, and you don't have to worry so much about destroying something because you still have that effective state which you had before, so you can kind of get back to some configuration.
All right. Any other open questions from the community? Thank you, Dwayne. That was a great question. That's the kind of stuff I like.
We are also open to the POF versus jump points, right?
All right. I'm going to move you back down to the audience, but feel free to raise your hand again if you have another question. And that's it. What do I think about Maester? So admittedly, I have not looked at it closely yet. I know the AD version of it is fairly new. I think he just announced it like a couple weeks ago. I think the Entra one's been around for a while, and I unfortunately have not been on the Entra side very much, so I can't speak to that one. But it is definitely one of the ones on my short list to check out. There's also another one, like Insight, something or other, that they recently dropped their own security assessment. That's on my list. I have not had a chance to get to those. I have nothing against any security assessment. The only thing I will say is anybody who puts stuff out nowadays, and I'm not saying that about Maester, I know that comes from, a pretty reputable source, but if somebody just drops out like their magic security assessment, I would question it, because with AI development, people are doing stuff real fast and they really don't know what they're talking about sometimes. And that's not to say that everybody doesn't, but there's some people who they're just sending things out there. So if I don't know where it came from, I ask big questions. And that's why I tend to recommend Ping Castle and Purple Knight. They've both been around for a super long time. So yeah, exactly. Maester's on my list. I will test it probably in the next few weeks.
There should be, I think I have seen from Mario that there are just few checks, some basic ones for AD. Yeah. But from my standpoint, it's kind of, there is tons of tools for this use case. We don't really need a new one that do the same thing, because as you said, there has been Ping Castle forever, there is Purple Knight, or there is AD Pro, which is from Horizon Security. So there are many tools that you can use. What I usually like to follow is if I can really verify and trust that company, that someone who created it, or if I can really verify the script, if I can read it. Because if it's something that is compiled, then of course, for example, I'm not able to just get through it and say it's safe to run. And you are running it with domain admin privileges. So if you are running something like that in production environment, you should always be very careful, whatever it is. So it's always good, as Tyler mentioned, it's always good to really understand what the tool does and what do you actually want to get out of it. Because, for example, with AD Pro, with the script I created, it was I created it because I needed it for production environments, and I needed to be really sure what is running as part of those scripts. So I kind of just I dug deeper and I created it on my own. And I kind of recommend doing similar things unless you can really trust somebody. So
yeah, the only thing I will say about Purple Knight and Ping Castle that really kind of gets under my skin is that both of them, well, actually two things. Both of them require you have to go out to the company and you have to give them your email address, and So you're kind of subjecting yourself to spam. With Purple Knight, I can say there's a way to get around that. And if you look at the links I put out there, I put direct links to the tool. Ping Castle, not so much. Networks changed it. You cannot download it without giving them all your details. That said, if you don't want to give them your public or your email address, reach out to me. I'm happy. I've got some burner emails I can use that they won't flag, so I'm happy to help download those for people. But the other thing I don't like about them is neither of them really allow you to schedule them easily. And so you have to go in there and run the tools. You can't get like an ongoing report. Purple Knight, for example, they want you to buy their like big enterprise product that does that as part of it. Ping Castle, I'm sure Network has a kind of a similar position. So that's like the advantage of something like AD Probe or some of the other tools out there. They're a little bit more open in the sense that you can run them continuously. But yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you mentioned it, because we should also get this going for Horizon, because it's also behind like registration wall, because I'm using Teachable for everything, so I'm just too lazy to create like a GitHub or something, and I'm sure it will be much easier for people to get it like just easily somewhere, you know, than just registrations.
Entra Falcon, I've not seen that yet. I'll add that one to my list too. Like I said, I don't do as much in Entra. I'm doing more and more as the days go on, but I'll definitely add that to the list of things to check out. That's cool. I love tools. I feel like I'm kind of like a tool goblin at this point, because I just kind of gather them up, and I've just got stacks and stacks of tools. I think I literally have like 3 or 4 pages of Obsidian notes that are just tools I need to review. Like, it's a lot. So
yeah, I have also not seen that one, and I've never heard about it. Also, what I of course recommend is, like, when you are trying to secure your AD or any AD, whatever, just the most important things, I guess, at least from my standpoint and from breaches I have seen so far, you should have security baselines in place. You should have tiering model or some kind of separation. It doesn't really need to like be tiering model. Just separate roles and implement some restrict accesses. Run some tool like Ping Castle or whatever tool you like, your preferences, and run Bloodhound. Because if you do those 4 things, like, I am sure you will mitigate like almost everything that normal attacker would be after. Because like Sharpbound is so amazing with even verifying, like for example, when you build a tiering model into your environment, there is nothing better to do than just run Sharpbound or Bloodhound, whatever, because you can verify that you really built it properly, you built it correctly, because there are sometimes some things that you could miss and some ACLs and things like that, and of course Sharpbound can find it. So I highly recommend to always verify things with that, because it's still one of the best tools for escalation paths. At least I believe that, because I have seen multiple tools that do that, and I have never seen one that would do it in such a nice way as Sharphound does. So
the only thing I'll say about like Bloodhound and Sharphound, I would say that's like the last step I would do, because it could be it can be kind of overwhelming to bring that in the first time, and it's a little clunky sometimes. But also you will, I mean, a lot of companies, they will flag that with their EDR and stuff like that. So you need to make sure you have make a lot of friends before you turn that on. A similar thing you can do is you can also use Forest Druid by Simperis. It's a kind of a competing product to Ping Castle, or not, Purple Knight. But I don't like it as much as Bloodhound. It's kind of weird sometimes, but it will help you kind of visualize some of those attack paths. And I feel like there's another tool I saw recently. It's slipping my mind right now, that also does kind of a similar thing to Bloodhound, that doesn't have as much like EDR flagging to it. But like the thing is the bad guys are using the good guys tools a lot now. And so like the other tool I'll say, if you're going to run something please, if you run a PKI, run Locksmith. Like Jake's not here, at least I don't see him. He would tell me like, run Locksmith. I've noticed that some stuff is starting to flag Locksmith now, which is just bizarre to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if you're running PKI, run Locksmith. It's like the Ping Castle and Purple Knight of ADCS, and some of that is rolled into Purple Knight, but Locksmith's just so amazing. And I know Jake and Spence have put a lot of effort into it, and it's really good stuff. And I think and Sam's the other one, the 3 of them.
Yeah, those tools they usually don't have the full coverage, but Locksmith has it, so it's much better to use that for this use case.
Do I have the GitHub to Locksmith? Yeah, I can toss it out there. Do I? If I mention a tool like by name, I probably have a link for it pretty quick that I can get to.
Yeah, and there is the second version, so I guess it would be better to.
He's so I think even says on the page that the second version is in development.
Okay.
I've only run it a couple times. It's going to get better. It's getting better. He also has another tool that's Stairs that kind of does it. I think he's actually going to combine Stairs into Locksmith too. But but last I checked, Locksmith 2 was still kind of in flight. But I'll put them both out there. Don't worry. Yeah, if you're not following Jake's GitHub, you really should, because he's just a wizard, and he's one of the coolest people I've ever met. He's nice. Let's see. What features have been lost in Ping Castle? I think it works mostly the same. Networks is just really locking things down. I've seen them just kind of pulling back on some stuff more. So I don't think it's Ping Castle's never been my favorite of the like between it and Purple Knight. I always like Purple Knight a little bit more. I think the reports look better. They do detect different things, but to that end, use one or the other. I would not compare either of them, Purple Knight or Ping Castle, to Bloodhound. They're completely different tools.
Yeah, exactly.
They have some overlap, and like you can see some of the attack paths. And like if you've ever done like a full security assessment using I've seen it in CrowdStrike, for example. It will show you some of the attack paths and stuff like that. I've seen some of these tools like Bloodhound and stuff like that will do stuff. You do need to raise your hand, but if you want to speak, I can let you speak. There you go.
Oh. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry, I joined late, so I wasn't sure.
You're fine.
I was just curious as to. Right, I'm a Ping Castle customer, so I have access to the whole thing. So, yeah, so I was more just curious as to what was lost in that sense. I mean, because I was with them prior to the Networks acquisition, so I've seen the impact of other handling things going from and to. It's not that different, if I'm being honest, but
yeah. At the risk of saying things I don't like to say necessarily, I'm a little disappointed with Networks in the recent years. They've gone sideways in a lot of ways. I'm not even talking necessarily about their tools and the capabilities of their tools. I'm a little disappointed, and they know that. I've told them that. They've seen me say that. So I'm not saying anything. I'm being intentionally a little vague about some of that because I don't want to like come off too hard on them. But I think that's part of where some of my bias comes, is I've just been a little disappointed in some stuff. I think they can fix it. I really do. I think they could fix it. I think they could do better. They just need to kind of have a change of culture. And I've seen companies do that. I've seen that change happen, and it's been wonderful when it does.
Yeah.
So cool. So I actually never talked to anybody who pays for Ping Castle. So what motivated you to go down that path? I'm curious.
So we started with, we had been using the AD wraps so before I joined the organization, we had done like an annual AD wrap. And so I work for a fairly large enterprise, right? So we had a big Microsoft support contract anyways. So we'd done AD wraps, which were kind of a joke because they run a tool and you pay someone who's offshore to read back a PowerPoint presentation to you. I'm not cynical at all, right?
I'm laughing. Been there, done that.
Yeah, and then we got a bucket of money. We had Microsoft Consulting Services come in and do an AD assessment. And the people doing the assessment were actually very intelligent, for lack of a better way of putting it, right? So it was an actual assessment. Yeah, one of the consultants I think is someone who you would appreciate at the time, because he used to like to give vendors a hard time about saying they needed domain admin access for everything, and so he was a pedantic nutbeard who changed all the default permissions in AD and just left domain admin effectively useless and was like, hey, your tool doesn't work.
Love him.
Start over, right? Anyway, so we had them give us the assessment. It was productive. We cleaned up a lot of things. It was quite expensive. I won't challenge, it probably wasn't worth the money, but here we are. And then a few years later, we had Sean Metcalf come in and do a similar exercise, because I was like, hey, it's Sean Metcalf, no explanation needed.
Yeah.
The cost was significantly less. But surprise, surprise, we found the exact same things again, or many of the same things, right? We fixed the symptoms and not the problems. And so then we were like, hey, we need to do this. Yeah, I'm familiar with the difference. There's the operational and the security wrap, and so we had done the security one. And so, anyways, we decided that we needed something that was relatively continuous. And so, one of our other entities is French, and so surprise, surprise, you know, the guy who wrote Pink Castle is French, and they were like, this is this greatest thing. And so we just kind of started using that for a little bit. I would say, quite honestly, the main reason that we used it was because it was cost efficient. It had a flat rate, unlimited forests, right? And Microsoft had also been moving away from the offline wrap. And so for us, from an M&A perspective, running the free version, you know, getting a file that you could import asynchronously was just quite advantageous. And so we felt that what was put in was not as in-depth and as quality as hiring a consultant, but was slightly less noisy than an AD wrap. And when you pay for the enterprise version, you do get that kind of consolidated view, so you can manage multiple domains, you can track your changes over time, all of that stuff, right? And then he subsequently built in even like a remediation path, so you can flag findings, track whether they've been fixed or not, set due dates, set exceptions. So it's a functional tool as you would expect like an enterprise to have, and you can filter and break up the data model and so forth. So you know, much of the things about running continuously, like it doesn't quite run continuously, but you set it as a scheduled task and then it'll just run. There's also like a Swagger API framework built into it. So if you like to do your own scripting over API, you can access it that way. That sort of a thing. It does kind of create some executive summaries. It creates like cool rule maps so you can see, you know, by maturity level, that sort of a thing. So, I mean, you know, is the core of the product in the free version? Yes. What are you paying for? A centralized dashboard functionally. I would say Networks they've done some development now. So like the old school way of doing it was you created a scheduled task for pingcastle.exe with some command line switches. They've kind of built it into some native scheduling now. So, I mean, it's not, you know, have they dramatically overhauled the product? No. Have they made it generally less accessible to the community? Yes. But they're doing some incremental improvements too. So.
Yeah.
It was for us. It was just a per domain question, right? Because even if you at the time, what an AD wrap cost, like 20 Rand a domain. So
I mean, it depends with that, you know, like
it depends on how many you had, but whatever it was, like what we were paying for it, if you had more than 3 domains, like Ping Castle was more cost effective, and so that was the route we went. I could go down a long tirade about scoring and how things match up, and I won't do that here because it's unproductive. But
I've literally held up those reports in front of my executives. Like, I want you to take all the scoring numbers and just forget about them because it's noise. Like, let's go actually look at some of, like, let's look at the risk levels and looks like like where tires the miter and that kind of stuff. That all stuff is beneficial. But like you're at 94% out of 100, like, okay, like that doesn't, it's executive fodder. No, I agree.
It gives you more points based on every time it finds a password in plain text on a GPO. So if you've got 100 of them, you have 12,000 points or something, right? It didn't make a lot of sense, and it didn't check to see whether those GPOs were even linked, right? So you can have 30 bad unlinked, unused GPOs, but suddenly your secure score is complete trash, right?
Yeah.
So
it's they all do something similar. No, thank you for the insight on Ping Castle. Like I said, I've used some other tools. I've used most of the industry tools in that space at this point, so I hadn't used the enterprise version of that. So that's very interesting. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to drop you back down out of the speaking. Thank you so much. Let's see. Purple Nice, I think that's always going to be a debate because there's so many tools in that space now. I usually throw Purple Knight because I think the reporting is a little bit more consumable, but I've seen people from all over different spectrums of the, say, one thing or another. So it's always a hard sell one way or the other. I think the reality is use the tools that you can get. And it's something I'm always going to preach off of, is what you have, use that first. And then, like, if you are budget constrained, I work for a nonprofit healthcare, like I'm budget constrained constantly. Find good tools that are cheap or easily freely available. There's a lot of open source tools out there. Obviously test them, make sure they do what you want. And you can understand a lot of things. And there's some tricks, sometimes a tool says, it only scan 5 devices. Okay, pick 5 devices of 5 different types, scan them, and then roll those changes across all the others of that spectrum. Are you going to get every single risk that way? Probably not, but you're going to do a pretty good job. You're going to get really close. If you have a Microsoft contract, we talk about wraps there. I think they call them OADs now, online something, on-demand security assessments or something like that. On-demand assessments. Yeah. It's a similar thing. They just run continuously now rather than you run like the wrap. You'd like run it for one day and then it's in a bunch of report. OADs runs periodically and then you do like a yearly review with them. I worked in an environment at 300 tile domains. Trust me, it does not scale in a multi-domain, multi-forest model. Trust me, I know. I used to sit there and watch it spin for days. But the reality is like if you have the support contract to do that, do it. If you don't, there are other tools out there. That's assessments and scanning are always like there's always a big topic because people are always up against their auditors pushing something new. I think I had my own internal review recently. Like, hey, you need to turn off these things. I'm like, good luck. I'd love to turn them off, but I'm going to cause a massive outage if I do. So let's plan this instead of you just sending me a report that you ran. So I'm not bitter at all. Trust me. So, all right. Any other questions going on? We got some more time. We started a little late, but we got about 15 minutes until the hour. Go a couple minutes over since I started late, but I don't want to do too much. But any other questions from the group? I'll look at my notes and see if there's any others here that I can bring up. So one of the questions I see a lot that kind of comes in through the Reddit space and through different other avenues is like tiering models and like what's the best way to tier. And like the honest answer, like everybody likes to get, like the answer that everybody kind of gives is like, well, here Microsoft just dropped this new tiering model, just go do that, or here go do this thing or do that thing. Tiering model, even the one that Microsoft just published with all the scripting behind it and stuff like that, it was never, ever, ever meant to be like a one size fits all. Whatever matches your talk. Exactly. Like it was never intended to be a one size fits all. I've seen environments that have 2 tiers. I've seen environments that have had 4, 5, 6 tiers to their security models. It really depends on your organization. Is there a wrong way to do it? Yes, but there is not one right way to do it either. And so I always recommend find something that works for you. I think Dwayne, you and I were chatting recently because you were using the little like AD mockup tool that I kind of was I built a little bit, and I have like my tiering model in there, and you're asking me some questions about it, and it just depends. I've seen cases where like there wasn't a hard cut between tier 1 and tier 2. Like sometimes there was some overlap there, so you had to adjust that. So do you create a middle tier between tier 1 and tier 2, or do you like you have to kind of find it? I will say Microsoft's guidance is really good. They've got that new stuff. It's very detailed, but just know that it's not a one size fits all. Like you might have to like change it, or you might have to adjust it. And sometimes what Microsoft designs in a vacuum is not really what we see in the real world. So just be cautious with that. But personally, I like 3 tiers. I think it works pretty well. I think it fits most use cases. Just vary it from there. But if you're going to do a tier model, my absolute advice, start with tier 0. Find out, like just have tier 0 and everything else. You have your most secure stuff and everything else. And start working on hardening your Active Directory, your certificate services, your Entra accesses, that kind of thing. Get that tier 0 super hard, but then start working on everything else, because you secure that and you also kind of show what you can do, and you make it easier on yourself down the road. So David, what do you think about tiering? Any adds to any of that?
Well, it's something I do, like I would say, on daily basis for all kinds of customers. And it's always like my perspective is always different to somebody who works internally, because I usually do it for others, and there is some specific budget for it, there is some time pressure, let's say, and things like that. So building the tiering model itself is not that difficult. Like the planning takes few hours, talking with customers takes few hours, then I create a script that deploys it in few minutes. So usually overall like few man days for like the creation and planning of the tiering model. What takes ages is of course to get the environment into the tiering model, because usually, or at least how we proceed, is that we created the tiering model next to the running environment, so we don't we don't impact anything so far. And then we just take a look, of course, what belongs to which tier, and we kind of start migrating those things. So let's say in batches, so like 5 servers migrate, 5 servers migrate, and we do it like in batches like this, and it can take up to 1, even 2 years. Like if you have really like big environment, it can really take 2 years, and mostly because you have like, at least here in Czech Republic, those organizations very often have like 50% of servers managed by some external company, by some SLA. And that's the hardest part, because through somebody, you need to inform them that something like this is happening. You tell them what are the changes, and they need to prepare for it. And they usually have no idea what their application needs or what could break potentially and things like that. And that's what takes time. That's why you cannot do it like 50 in one batch. That's why you do like 4 in one batch, because it's just impossible to do it in bigger scale. So I think the new resource from Microsoft is great. I especially like it because of the reach and impact it will have. Because I am not the one probably who will be using the script or the documentation, because I have been doing it my way and I like it. But I love it because more people will hear about it, more people will learn about it, and it will finally get the place in Windows infrastructures that it deserved like years ago. So that's why I love the whole thing about the new tiering model documentation and script. So this is kind of my take on things.
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, people who do this all the time or who've got their own way probably won't change that much. But those of us but other people, it's more accessible now. I like that. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions anybody wants to throw out there? You can throw it in chat or raise your hand and we'll bring you in. I saw one come through yesterday in one of the chats here, talking about effective access and how effective access works. And I kind of always chuckle a little bit because I spent a big chunk of time in the past, probably like year. I was doing a lot of research into effective access because of some issues we were having. But the short of it is effective access. So if you think about how any Windows system works, there's always going to be some rights. If it's domain join or not domain join, something has rights. Either it's a user account or administrator account, there's going to be rights. Even if you go into domain aspect, like, okay, users in other forests. Well, if they're able to communicate with that AD, that's because they're coming over trust then. So at the very least, anybody who has access to resources in AD will be a member of authenticated users in some capacity, or everyone. If you're using guest accounts, please don't use guest accounts. But they'll be part of authenticated users. And if you look in the AD ACLs, authenticated users have access to things. So effective access will be able to see if a person has any kind of access, which they will, effective access will show that. So if they don't, if you put like a principle that you've truly restricted out, it will show denies across the board. But if you put a principle that does have any kind of access, it will show you what access they have. I think the real interesting thing is actually how it does that, because the way effective access works is it actually generates a security authentication request behind the scenes. So when you click that button and go in there, put a user account in there, it generates an authentication request that is not a complete authentication request. Basically, it gets enough of like the pack and whatnot to see what that person would have access to, and then it just discards everything. If you're familiar with like the S4U2 to self process, that's effectively what's happening. So that's how effective access works. And so it's generating these essentially fake security. It's an impersonation really, to simulate, hey, I'm pretending to be this user for a second. Give me a access token on their behalf, and then he reviews it. So that's effectively how it works.
That's cool. I have no idea about that. So that's nice.
Yeah, I only know because I spent about probably 3 months investigating it, because we were getting some weird authentication issues. We're showing accounts that we knew hadn't logged in a super long time. They were showing us having logged in, and we're like, I know that this person hasn't logged in. Like I can, and if it was like one or two thing, okay, this is an attack kind of thing. But it was like literally hundreds of users, and like some of them hadn't even started. Like their accounts are showing as logged in, hadn't even started working yet. So we started diving into it, and I was pushing out security team, like, let's double check, let's make sure we're double checking that these aren't like bogus access, like attacks and stuff like that. And I'll dig into it from like just a technical, like what's happening. And that's where I ran across it. It's like, oh, so when it does, so there was basically something impersonating a bunch of users. Like it was an application that was a dumb application that it enumerated access by basically just generating a bunch of these effective access attempts and like just listing it off. I'm like, oh my word. Like, why? I let the vendor
long months.
Oh my god, I was so mad. So yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at
that's interesting. That's very interesting.
It was fun. So let's see.
And okay, you kind of also reminded me why it's one specific topic, and that's for you guys. If you want to test something interesting, try to remove in demo, not in production environment. Try to remove authenticated users from pre-2000 compatible group, and try to run AD security assessment before and after. It's so amazing how much like permissions or privileges, whatever it's called, it provides to attackers, because attacker, if they scan your environment, this is what helps them so much to get most of the information about your AD. So I highly recommend to try the before-after state in demo just to see what's the impact. It's kind of amazing. So
yeah,
just throwing it into there.
In one of my lab environments, I intentionally pull authenticated users out of there, and you'd be amazed at like what's like secure, like high security, like these people know what they're doing. Tools just don't work all of a sudden. They can't do anything.
Yeah.
They
Bloodhound almost like it gets something, but so like much less. Like really,
it's
there is not so
really
much
crazy. Yeah, you should have everyone out of there. If you have everyone in there, please stop.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Is that Griffin? Or is that Dwayne? I'll let you speak in just a second. There was a question in there. I don't see your name since I'm sharing or recording or whatever. It hides the full name, so I can't see your actual full usernames. But see, Microsoft clearly has shifted from legacy compatibility first to secure by default. NTLM v1 is already removed in Server 25. SMB signing is on by default, and NTLM is set to be disabled by default in the next release. My view is forcing this issue to change defaults is the only thing that actually moves organizations off legacy. How do you see the trade-off playing out? I think I agree. I think the forced change is what's really required. The problem that we're having though is a lot of organizations don't have choices. Like and I think this is a challenge I've seen with like a lot of my red team friends. Is like, why won't people just get off of these bad protocols? Why don't you just turn off NTLM v1? It's so bad.
Simple.
I was like, yeah, I've got applications that were literally written in 1991 still running in my environment. I've got stuff from the 90s still running in my environment in healthcare. So, does anybody know how much an MRI machine costs off the top of your head?
Exactly. And even just find somebody, like license device. It's not that simple. Like, really,
Yeah. So it was kind of a rhetorical question because I don't know if I don't, obviously you guys can't just jump in, but it's about $1 billion with a B to replace an MRI machine, US. Hospitals, most of them are running negatives. When are they supposed to upgrade their MRI machines? Because a lot of times the software is tied to the system. So if it's running NTLM, if it's running SMB1, if it's running whatever, you're stuck. Manufacturing has similar problems, and banking, despite as much as they talk about security, banking has the exact same problems too. Pretty much every industry has like their niche. It sucks they run this thing, but I still have to do it, kind of thing. So killing things like NTLM v1 and whatnot are great ideas, and I think they should be done. I think we should be pushing for that direction, but there needs to be a mechanism always to go back still, because they're going to shoot yourselves in the foot. And what's going to happen if they do that is we're going to have people staying on truly legacy versions of Microsoft Windows to keep things running, or they're going to shift to like bootleg, like, using like Samba and stuff like that can still support some weird stuff if you let it. That's what's going to happen. Or they're just going to stop joining them domains, and that's almost as bad. So that's my concern there. I think Microsoft is on the right track. I just think they need to be more aware of the impact. Like some of the stuff they do with RC4 when they tried to just like hard kill it several years back, and they created massive outages because they just tried to go too fast. That was bad. That was real bad. So
yeah, we need simple way to create exceptions, like some very simple and straightforward way to just say, okay, so this server can use it or something like that. It just must be there.
But that was a great question. I like, I mean, because that's the truth. Like, I mean, we're seeing them push a lot of stuff right now, and they're pushing super fast. I mean, we're running into stuff ending. So, all right, I will let Dwayne speak here real quick, and that will be kind of our last thing for the time. We could stick out in chat, but I'm going to stop the recording after that because I got in trouble in the past.
The question is related to security filtering.
Okay.
The default is to assign it to Authenticated. Is that the best practice?
I'm sorry, you cut out a
Sure.
little bit. Try again.
Yeah, I was asking if that is the best practice to leave it at Authenticated use.
To leave the Windows 2000.
No, I think security filtering
No,
is GPU, right?
Security filtering on GPU.
You will find people who say various ways, so I'm going to give you my take on it, and if anybody has a different take, I welcome it. Unless you need a specific security filtering, use authenticated users. If you need a specific security filtering, so I only want these systems or these users to get this policy, grant those persons, those groups, ability to apply group policy, and make sure that authenticated user still has read. That's kind of important. If you take away the read rights for authenticated users, it can cause some issues. And the way you usually see that is you'll see like these really ugly warnings in group policy. Leave the authenticated users on with read access, and then unless you're specifically doing like some specific stuff with it, you don't need to put any individual users on there. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I agree with Tyler on this one. Like, like the environments I have seen so far, like for those 6 years, I have seen maybe one implemented tiering model, and maybe once I have seen like fully implemented security baselines. So like dealing with niches like this, like security filtering and authenticated users, it's unnecessary complexity, I would say. Like, really, it doesn't really. I feel like there are more important things like to deal with usually in those environments, and with this I would stay to the default unless you really need like to change it. Of course, that makes sense, but the default is fine.
Okay, thanks, man.
It exists sometimes.
A recommendation I've seen people say is to like remove authenticated users from being able to read like privileged policies, and I just don't see the point. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, either like covering things, hiding things. It's like, if it's a honeypot, okay, I get it. But unless it's not a honeypot, I don't really see what is the point of it. And then you will run some AD assessment too. You will not get it. Like,
yeah, well, and the argument I've seen is like, well, that way the people who are breaching your environment can't see what vulnerabilities you have, and it's like they're gonna find them. Like,
yeah,
like it's just I don't agree with some of that mentality. So like I don't like that, but that's the only thing. So is yeah, but yeah, leave authenticated users turned on, and if you're going to do security filtering, give them read access. And if you want, I can show you how to do that sometime, because it's kind of confusing the first couple times you do it, and then once you're like, oh, okay, that's actually not that bad. But like the first couple times you're like, how do I do that? So if you want, I can share. I meant to have a lab environment for this whole thing to show in real time if it came up, but that did not work out because I killed a hard drive yesterday. So that was fun. So let's see.
Not a good time to be losing a hard drive.
Yeah, it was not fun. I think I could fix it. I think it just got, I think it was, I think somehow like BitLocker just lost its mind and locked everything out, and I couldn't get it unlocked. So I'll just start over. No big deal. But all right, I'm going to put you back.
Not AD really, but
yeah.
Will these memory prices come down anytime soon? I don't see it for the rest of this year, but gosh, man.
The stuff I've been seeing, and it's not anything authoritative, I've seen people saying into 27. I've seen people say could last till 3030 or 2030, not 3030. Probably could last till 3030. I don't know. I think nobody knows. I'm seeing a lot more AI hate though. It could be just the algorithm realizing I'm kind of tired of AI, but I've been seeing a lot more AI hate lately. So we'll see how that goes. But that trust me, I'm right there with you. I want to see it come down too. So. All right. And I see that there's one last question in chat, so I will answer that, and then we'll cut it off there, and that'll put us right about time. But I don't really know if I have a good answer for it. Random question: struggling with some weird certificated authenticated IPsec tunnel policy that doesn't work on 25 servers. I think it has something to do with the deprecated by default item, but for life of me can't find it. It's funny because I was doing some stuff on 25 and certificates just recently too, and I saw some weird stuff too. And I found an article, I can't remember where it was. I'll see if I can dig that up for you. If I can, I'll send it to you. I've seen some weird stuff too. I was doing some real bizarre stuff with PKI, and found out that literally what I was trying to do can't work, which is okay. Like, I'm actually thinking about writing a whole blog post about my failure, because like we talk about our successes a lot, but we never talk about the times that we spend 3.5 days researching something to find out we were completely wrong. Because that was fun. But I'll see if I can dig it up. I have a lot of my notes from that stuff on my other computer, so I'll look. But
there are many things like with Windows Server 2095. There was, for example, that thing with Kerberos AES that basically, when you compare the logs and compare the Wiresharks, so the network traffic, it seemed to be the same encryption type for Kerberos, but the older domain controller would not accept it from the 2005 domain controller for some reason. So it looks like there can be like the same cipher, at least the title or the name is the same, but in the background, for some reason, they still don't understand each other. So it might be also like related to ciphers like that, I guess.
Yeah, they've done some weird stuff. when troubleshooting PKI stuff, if you don't know, one thing I highly recommend is first make sure that you have audit policy set on for all your PKI stuff. So the audit flags of 127. Also, though, I learned this just recently, you need to have the actual server audit policy set up through your policy too. So those two things to be on, and that gets you all your PKI logs. The second thing you can do for troubleshooting is go into events, your event log under window, or get to the Windows like application event logs, Windows. There's one that's called CAPI, C-A-P-I, CAPI 2. You'll have to go in there and there's an operational log, right click on it, hit enable, and then you'll have to do some stuff and it will generate some output logging for you. That's a really good place to troubleshoot. You can find some, it gets noisy and it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but yeah, that's what I tend to look at. I turned that, actually I have it set to turn on automatically on all my PKI stuff, even though it's kind of annoying to try to read through it. It's worth it. So CAPI 2.
That's the only way, basically.
Yeah, it really is, without doing like packet traces and weird stuff.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'll close with this. So when I was doing my research, to tell you what I was doing, I was trying to see if I could turn a regular everyday YubiKey into an HSM or treat it like an HSM. You can't, by the way. But I was getting these really weird errors. Like they didn't make any sense. And what I found was if I did it through PowerShell, I would get one error. If I did it through the GUI, I would get another error. And if I checked the event logs, I would get yet another error, all occurring at the same time. And it was basically the same error, but each system reported it a different way. Thanks, Microsoft. That was a lot of fun. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone from joining. Sorry, I was a little clunky at first. I promise I'm continuing to improve this every time. Anybody who's been watching me do this stuff from the beginning, you'll know that I'm who I am. So I'm learning as I go. I'm not good at like presenting, content creating, that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to be here for y'all. So I'm putting it out there. I'm trying. Please tell me how things go. You can always reach out to me. Clearly, I'm in Discord, so find me, ping me, and I will happily set up some time with you. And yeah, but thank you all for coming. Thank you for the conversation, and we will continue to do more of these. Thank you, David, for letting us borrow Horizon Security to do some of our AD Meetup stuff. And
Thank you, Tela.
Yeah, and if you guys can, September 1st, we're doing another one. We're going to try to do over Proton again, unless there's issues. So September 1st, we're going to do a big community meetup. Hopefully, we'll get some a lot of people. Last time was a little lower. I was a little disappointed. But that's okay. We're just building this one step at a time. So anyway, I appreciate you all coming. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks.
Thank you.